We welcome all who seek spiritual meaning in life, all who believe religion is wider than any one faith. Welcome who come in friendship, who long for genuine community. May you all be graciously received here as your authentic self. Welcome to those of you who come in curiosity, full of questions or simply open. May you embrace the wonder and encounter new delights. Welcome to those of you who come heavy with fatigue, weary from the troubles of the world or troubles of your own particular life. May you rest and be filled in this sacred space. Welcome who come with joy for flowing rivers and gentle breeze, for changing skies and the great trees. May the grace of the world leave a lasting imprint in you. Welcome who come with thanks for the altruism of the earth and the gift of human care. May your grateful heart overflow and bless those around you. Welcome to you all, whether you are here in person or online. Come, let us celebrate together this wondrous church and the gifts that it gives us. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to our 204th anniversary, which is actually on Tuesday, but we're doing party poppers today because most of us will be at work on Tuesday. But I might do a secret party popper when no one's looking on Tuesday. So 204 years since the doors of this church were first opened and the first service was taken here. We can only imagine what it must have been like to come to the first service of a new building in a new town with over 300 people attending. It was the start of something new and exciting and radical. There was a rich history that came before this church was built, a rich history of dissenters, and some people say it's still full of dissenters. I hope so. We know our own mind, and we're not frightened to express it. So whether you've been coming here for a number of years, whether you're dipping your toe in, you're not sure, or whether you're new this morning, a really warm welcome to this sacred space in the heart of our city. The words that I started with right at the beginning of the service are outside on a plaque. We welcome all who seek spiritual meaning in life, all who believe religion is wider than any one faith. So I hope that you will get a taste of that in our service today. And and to hear some of the contributions that have made this into such a glorious and rich tapestry of a church in the centre of our city. As many Unitarian churches across the country and internationally light a chalice every week, we will do so today to continue that tradition, a symbol of hope, of light, and welcoming to all. And I've asked Diana to light our chalice. Thank you, Diana. We light this chalice for all that have come before us, for all of those people who struck the match, for all that they've done to bring us to this moment, for all they fostered, cultivated, saved, worked and built, suggested, directed and manoeuvred, out of a calling, out of a commitment and out of love. We light this chalice for our community that has come out of the past and shapes the future. We light this chalice to symbolize the light and hope we find in our movement, in our connection to the God of our understanding, whatever that is that you choose it to be, and the connection to the wider world. Happy birthday, BUC. Let us come to a moment of prayer. As I said just a moment ago, please choose the word God as you wish. Divine light, spirit of all, we come here to be with each other. We bring our frail and our wounded selves to love our broken world and to love its suffering people. Let us worship so that love will flow. Like our ancestors before us, we ask for strength and guidance, for protection and care as we walk in this day. God of spirit and life, who transcends all time and space, we are pilgrims on the path of love, seeking light and warmth to carry us on our journey. Know that our hearts are uplifted and our burdens are eased by this mysterious presence. For this, we thank you. Amen and blessed be. We sing our first hymn this morning. It's in the Purple Book. It's number 186, and it's entitled, which I think is fairly apt for today, "We Are Travellers All on a Journey." So this service this morning is a three-parter. Part one, we go back to hear about how we all came to be, not as in us came to be, but how the church came to be. The second part is to hear a little bit about some of our members back in time, who they were and what they contributed. And then part three, we come right up to date, how our building is being used in the sense of community. And there'll also be some time for any of you that wish to share some of your reflections. So get comfy in your seat and let me tell you a story. 204 years ago, well, in 2 days' time, marked the first church service here. The land that once was part of Prince Regent's Gardens was sold for £650 to be used by, as it said in its trust deed, a society of Protestant dissenters, established or intended to be established in Brighton. I wonder whether Prince Regent really knew what he was doing when he sold the land to us Apparently he was in a little bit of a pickle at the time and needed some money. Our member Francis, who I think is watching online this morning, described them as dissenters from dissent. This really describes rather neatly how independent they were, how forward-looking, and how awkward they were. So what were these dissenters? They were Christians who got expelled from the local Baptist church because they wouldn't subscribe to the rights and doctrines of the Church of England and refused its authority. I think they got to a space where they were able to read and digest and understand for themselves. They were making their own decisions. And they didn't believe that people should be damned to suffer in hell forever. They didn't accept this. They wanted a doctrine of universal salvation, but really simply, they believed that God's love is for everyone. A belief in freedom and conscience, a belief in science, an openness to faiths in the East of classical philosophies. They were also very much against hierarchies and superstition. And that was the beginning of Unitarianism. And as maybe we read that now, we go, oh yeah, that's what we are, that's what we do. But it's still, even now, a little bit radical, I think. So you can imagine how radical that was 200 years ago. I've done what I normally do, which is mix up my papers. Everybody who knows me well knows me that I do this. Hold on 1 second. There we go. So back to the story. These 19 dissenters who'd been expelled from the Calvinist Baptist Church in Brighton, and they were looking for somewhere to find a new home. You'd think that they would just build something quite simple. For any of you that have noticed when you come in the morning, you know our church is far from simple. And it can imagine that it stood out quite a lot 200 years ago. Eamon Wild, the architect, he designed the church along the lines of an ancient Greek temple, but not just any old Greek temple. It was the temple of Theseus in Athens. Theseus, a mythical king who fought beasts and monsters. And it means to set down and to establish. Theseus founded the city of Athens. So it makes sense, doesn't it, that somebody would build something as a nod to that. A new thing. To set down, to establish something that was different. I like to think that Dr. John Morell, who took the first service here, also knew what he was doing. This church was building a unity. It was symbolic, and it was different. And maybe when several hundred people walked in through the door 204 years ago, maybe they were curious. What are they doing in this new building? What's going on? I like to think that when new people come in now, perhaps they have the same thought. What goes on behind those doors? But there was a strong conviction for change. People were looking for something different. And some would say, not much has changed. We're still looking for something different. something where we can come and be and belong and be part of creating our future together. I'm sure they had their squabbles and disagreements, a bit like we do sometimes, in the creation of something new. And yet they agreed on a set of principles. And yet they allowed themselves to be changed by those principles, which is why in some ways Unitarianism is so different. We have moved with the times. I like to think when they came into this building that they looked to the future with gladness and courage, working on something together as a team, as a community. Today, Unitarianism that's sort of looked after by the General Assembly, which is our little umbrella, these are the words that they invite us to follow. We promote a free and inquiring religion through the worship of God and the celebration of life, the service of humanity and respect for all creation, and the upholding of the liberal Christian tradition. Those words from the GA that were formulated not so long ago, 60, 70 years ago, I think, come as a direct result of those people that stood in this building and said, we want to do something different. We want a God that can be accessed by everyone. And perhaps now what we say is, we want a building that can be accessed by everybody and a God that everybody can find and choose to name how they wish. That's a really condensed version. I'm really sorry, Francis. If anybody wants to know more about the history, please, when Francis is in, he is a historian, as is Christine, his wife, and they know so much about this building, and it's rich in its texture. And I'm sure there are many here that know much more, but I think for me, I just wanted to touch on the beauty of how this came about, and that we have a nod towards those that came before us and walked the path so that we can sit here and give thanks. So let us give thanks, and let's sing again, number 44 in the Purple Book, Give Thanks for Life. No, yes, you are correct. 45. So 45 has come down, O love divine, is that right? Yes, okay, so let's bring God into the mix. Thank you, Joe. As I mentioned, Frances and Christine are what I would call our in-house historians. They have been let off today. But Christine has written on one of many, but this latest, to life, the people on the plaques of Brighton Unitarian Church. It is a really interesting read. It brings alive these people who were part of history, and if you would like a copy, they're there. If you would, we ask for a contribution towards the church if you want to take one away. And I'm going to read, not directly from this, but Christine actually was very kindly edited some stories from this, so I'm going to read you a couple now. Firstly, I'm going to tell you about a man called William John Wherry, who lived from 1899 to 1976. He was a regular attender of these services, and yet he was so much more to the church and its congregation. For many years, he played an important part in helping to run the church, its social life, and through the fabric of the actual building, he secured its place for future generations. He was born in London just before the turn of the century. When he was 26, he became an associate at the Royal Institute of British Architects and married Ethel. And then they had a child. They moved from Exeter to Kimberley Road in Brighton, and he took up a post as a lecturer at the Brighton Technical College, now the City College. Once settled in the town, they started to attach themselves to Brighton Unitarian Church and immediately became active members of the congregation. He had a strong knowledge of building and architecture, and as you can imagine, became an asset to this church. He saw the laying of the new oak floor in the hall, new padded seating in the church, improved the pulpit lighting. He just loved this church. And he also understood as an architect the importance of investing in the built heritage of it, protecting it, preserving it, and renovating it. Many of us who've been in this church for a few years will know how much it takes to keep it running, especially when we had the whole of the front of the church renovated a few years ago, and how important it is to keep those things. protected. But that wasn't his only skill. Apparently, he was an auditor of the church accounts, one of the wardens, and a chair. He probably did the washing up, made the tea, and all the rest of it, I expect. But he took an interest in the social life of the congregation. Apparently, he produced a number of plays by the church's dramatic society, which got me quite excited when I read that, and I went, let's have a dramatic society. Let's create some more drama. And we had The Prince and the Pillars, which was a play that was put in the church while we were having all the renovations. That was back in 2018, 19. I'm looking at Fanny. 18, 19. So yeah, maybe we need to start reviving our dramatic excellence. And he also did old time dances. And as some of you know, this place is used for tango and all sorts of things. They moved to Ditchling Road, and after a short illness, he left a bequest, the sum of £200, which you can imagine was quite a substantial amount of money, even in 1976. And he stipulated it for the general purpose of the church. I'd be intrigued to look back at the accounts and see what general purpose was used for. I'm also going to tell you about Emily Lucy Boys. She lived from 1863 to 1934. She was a gentle woman. She gave her time and much of her wealth to the church. She was a Brightonian, born in 1863. Her father originally came from Lewes. And as Unitarianism wasn't fully legal in the UK until 1833, he was perhaps what you might call one of the dissenters. They made their home in Granbohade in Brighton, where they lived a comfortable life. Records show that they became subscribers to the Free Christian Church, which is what it was called back then. We had a well-established Sunday school held in the lecture hall, and she became its honorary secretary and apparently a superintendent teacher, whatever a superintendent teacher is, but anyway, a very important teacher. We don't know quite what happened to her. She had to give up her work with the Sunday school. But she gave her generosity to this church in times of her commitment and also her wealth. She helped raise funds for the Suffer Little Children's stained glass window above her plaque, which we can all see and appreciate now. In her will, she left £1,000. Again, for general purposes. So there, I wish I could tell you more. There is some incredibly rich stories of people that were part of this church, and also people who died in action. And for those of you that come to our remembrance service in November, often we spotlight one of those just so that we can, it makes it more real in terms of the people who were connected to us. So they were two people, probably of many, that came to our church, took on what needed to be done, rolled up their sleeves, used their skills and their talents to help support this growing congregation. So let us come to a place of stillness, place of prayer, and a place of reflection. Spirit of life, God of all love, the mystery that surrounds us, we give thanks for the space that we share in this moment. For those that work so hard to bring it into existence. To those who had the courage to lift their heads above the parapet and say something. We give thanks for all those who now help to look after this beautiful building. And whether people come for one day or many, all that walk through these doors become part of our community. Let us give thanks and be still together for a moment. Thank you, Joe. Part 3. So, part 3, now we are 204 years old, nearly. Matthew, who is one of our members here at church and part of the committee, kindly volunteered to share some thoughts about how our building is being used now. And I think it's something that some of us don't really know. We know there's lots of business and people come and go. And maybe we come to Sunday services, maybe we come in the week, but it's so much bigger than that. So Matthew's going to come and share a little bit about that. But I also put an email out asking if anybody would like to share a little bit. So I just wanted to get a show of hands, because it basically means if there aren't many, Matthew gets a bigger bit. And if there are more of you, then he gets a smaller bit. So is there anybody here that got that email and wanted to share something? And there's no, whatever the word is. What's the word? Funny. Anyone else? Brilliant. Okay. No? Anyone else? No? Brilliant. Matthew, you've got like, I don't know, 7 minutes. There you go. See if you can fit it into 7.
Morning. Sorry, I have to cope without my right glasses. So as Jennifer said, I'd like to celebrate the life of the church and its buildings beyond the immediate life of its congregation. So I'm thinking about the spin-off initiatives and groups that are associated with it and use its buildings. Because as you'll see, they often also feel a part of our community and also recognize this as a glorious place. So as far back as the 1880s, we had a Young Men's Mutual Improvement Society arranging lectures and entertainment in what is now the hall next door, and a Ladies' Social Society met for music and conversation. And in 1906, there was a reading circle and a glee society. Various other things, I'm sure, since then. But safe to say, things have moved on. So as Jennifer alluded to, there's a variety of groups and charities that use the church and hall today, and that's what I want to talk about. In fact, I think probably most of you would be surprised to know there's at least around 30 different groups and organizations that come here. Everything from a music for toddlers group to Cocaine Anonymous to a University of the Third Age. So real variety of groups coming. We have charities like Amaze, Action for Happiness, the Brighton and Hove Archaeological Society meet here, Concordia, and Changing Futures. We also have community initiatives and businesses like the wonderfully named Music for Aardvarks and Other Mammals, Brighton Bike Hub, the Rainbow Craft events, Soulful Singing, and Slavic Voices. Slavic, I think that should be, should it? Anyway, and then of course, various special events throughout the year, things like the Great Escape Music Festival, Brighton Fringe, and Brighton Festival itself use this as a venue, as I'm sure some of you know. And of late, it was used for the French elections, no less. And also we have things like groups of speech therapists from the NHS coming here for away days. So a massive variety of things alongside all of the concerts that go on here during different weeks, different gigs and so on, but especially including our own wonderful lunchtime concerts on a Friday, which are now regularly getting audiences of over 60 people. So a massive amount goes on that actually when you total it up in terms of the numbers, I had to check my spreadsheet twice on this, but probably a lot of months during the year, we're getting over 500 adults and children using these buildings. Using them for meeting, talking, confiding, planning, singing, and dancing. Not all at the same time, but all these amazing different uses. And it's an important source of income that helps keep us going. So we are here home to a wonderful diversity of groups and initiatives that support the cultural life of this city and the well-being of hundreds or even thousands of people each year in this city. As Unitarians, we are about the oneness of God and the unity of humanity, and about togetherness. we see diversity and pluralism as valuable. So the wonderful range and diversity of those that meet here and also use these buildings is a real mirror of what Unitarianism is all about. With Helen's help, we'd like to share now some quotes to give examples of those that use our facilities and how they value this place. So the first is a member of the Good Vibe Choir.
I'm a choir member at the Good Vibe Choir. There's no better place for singing than at the Unitarian Church. It's perfect location for our lovely choir. I can vouch for many of us that as soon as we step into the building, we feel calm and excited for the sessions to start.
And then we have someone who's benefited from the Pathways to Health group that meet here.
I first heard of Pathways through CGL, the Drug and Alcohol Service. I've been coming about 2 years now. When I came, I was suffering with severe depression and anxiety. I was also struggling with alcohol dependency. I felt at an all-time low, hopeless, and I had been feeling like this for over 6 months. The clinics have helped me and my well-being significantly. I try and come every week, as I can now come to a session with terribly overwhelming anxiety and leave feeling calm. I'm so grateful for this service and the improvement to my well-being it brings.
Something very different, a member of the University of the Third Age drawing group.
I'm not exaggerating when I say that the U3A drawing course at Brighton Unitarian Church has been one of the best things I have done in my life. For many reasons, the main one being the humanizing yet educational approach our tutor has towards tutoring. His name is Brian. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, U3A, and thank you, Brighton Unitarian Church, for this amazing opportunity. I'm very grateful.
Batterford Arts meet here with their community drumming group.
The church is central and the disability ramp is great. We have been hiring for 20 plus years. We feel part of the community of the church and are welcomed with open arms.
We also have various businesses who use the buildings, and one of the stall holders from Rainbow Craft Fairs said the following.
I'm a small business owner that sells at a lot of events in Sussex, but none are as fun, exciting and inclusive as Rainbow Craft events at the Unitarian Church. Unlike other local event organisers, they really make us feel like we're part of the family. They accept people of all genders, sexuality, race and nationality with wide open arms and big smiles.
And finally, Concordia, a charity that runs a charity youth programme here.
The Brighton Unitarian Church is a great, accessible community venue. The staff are very accommodating and have gone out of their way to support our special educational needs and disabilities youth engagement. So
I hope that gives you an interesting flavour of the different groups that really value these buildings. I mentioned it earlier that there's significant income from the hiring fees from these groups, but with inflation and the costs of running and maintaining a Grade 2 listed building, as well as managing our hiring, this income doesn't meet all our costs. So in fact, it's the support that we give each week or month that also helps towards that. So it's also indirectly providing a home to all the groups that I've mentioned. So something to celebrate on this anniversary is all the cultural life and the support for children and adults' well-being and education that happens from this place. A recent survey we did highlighted that nearly all those groups hiring our facilities are potentially interested in opportunities to showcase and celebrate what they do, which is fantastic for the future. Whether as formal Unitarians or sometime attendees at this church, week by week and in different ways, we share our individual journeys and experiences. And it's important to celebrate and be thankful for our continuing ability to do that. But we should also celebrate the fact that through these venues that we provide, this church is at the center of a community where each group can share and celebrate their own unique interests, their journey, their common lived experience, and find expected and unexpected connections with each other. But the final words must go to Jerry Liebens, the joint organizer of the Milonga Azul Argentine Tango Group. Our survey recently said, "We always feel very proud to dance at the BUC. It's such a beautiful space. Argentine tango is very contemplative, complex dance form, which requires intense concentration and focus. It's never noisy or hurried, so a peaceful venue like the BUC is perfect and adds so much to that experience. The acoustics are so beautiful too. We love it so much and appreciate how very special it feels. It's a glorious place."
Thank you, Matthew. I felt this like growing sense of pride as I was listening to that, thinking, yeah, how many people use this space? We may not see them on a Sunday morning, but they are part of our community, and that, yeah, that is very special. And I know that didn't just come out of fresh air. That's been a 6, 7, 8 month piece of work that Matthew's been doing with other members in the church to sort of get an idea of where we sit in the community. So thank you. Fanny.
There's so many things that I could draw on from the time that I've spent here, having come here for 30 odd years, but it has grown within me, and I have grown within it. So I won't bore you, but there have been two occasions that were particularly special for me, and they were occasions when I spent the night here. And it was just magical. So the first one was some years ago, we had a member here who was the chair at one point, the Reverend Kate Wyman, who put together what was called the World Sacred Music Festival. And she brought in all the varying types of performance from a sand mandala that was built by the monks of Tashi Lumpo, that was built on the floor in different colours, and people came in and saw all this, and it was wonderful. And then at the end of the week, they took all the sand and they threw it in the sea, having spent hours of horrendous discomfort and artistry building this thing. So that was one of those things. There were whirling dervishes, there were all sorts of wonderful things. But we had a night of chanting in here, and it was very special. It was led by two people, two women who sing, but we had a kind of rota of chanting all night long, and we brought our sleeping bags and our blow-up beds, and the floor was just littered with people, but there was this very sacred sort of space area at the front where the chanting took place. And this place, during that night, had a completely magical spiritual quality to it. It was unbelievable. I mean, I left at 7 a.m. And had to go and work as a dental hygienist. It wasn't good, but that night was very special. I can't describe it, but maybe you can imagine it. And the other time that I spent the night here was when we had a peace vigil here. So there was Jeff Jones, late lay leader, and one or two of us. And again, we brought our sleeping bags and our blow-up beds, and we sat in a circle in the middle and had a candle, and we took it in turns to read a passage every hour, and then we would sleep. And we did this all night long. I didn't think Jeff would hang in there. I thought he would go home, but he stuck it out, and we stuck it out, and it was the most amazing thing. We left here at dawn and walked down to the peace statue and put some flowers on the peace statue. So, yeah, that's my nighttime experiences at BUC. Very special.
Thank you, Fanny. That's the third time someone's mentioned staying overnight in this church in a matter of 3 weeks. I think, yeah, okay, I got it, I hear it, let's do it. I hope that for those of you who've been here for a while, or even those who come for the first time today, have just got a flavour of where we come from and what we do and where we are now. And all of those things that happen in this church are holy acts. Whether you are dancing the tango, and I've been very lucky to sit at the back at the top and watch them dance, and it's quite magical. Or you're having acupuncture, or you're watching the little tots singing and playing and banging their drums in the back. There's something very special about the fact that this church is open. And that's what I and we are working towards, to keeping those doors open for as many hours in the day and during the weekend, so people can access what we have to offer. So let us, as we're coming towards the end of our service, let's just come into a little moment of prayer together. Spirit of love, God of all being, we are here to love one another in our frail and wounded selves, to love our broken world, and to love its suffering people. We come to worship, to share, to pray, to cry, to love, to take a piece of this sacred space into our hearts and take it out into the world. God of life and love, give us your blessings each day. Give us the courage to walk within the path of love. To share what we have found to be so special and unique in this sacred space. May we be blessed, may we be loved, and may our journey on a new road to faith continue in this sacred space. Amen, and blessed be. We now sing our thankful song. We now sing Give Thanks for Life, which is number 44 in the Purple Book, during which time our collection will be made. There's an opportunity to either contribute through old-fashioned cash and paper notes, or we have a machine that you can pay through card. And what Matthew was saying earlier was that, whatever you give goes to keeping this place alive. And also, I want to say that you being here is also enough. Let's sing together. When we take fire from our chalice, it does not become less. It becomes more. And so we extinguish our chalice, but we take its light and warmth with us, multiplying its power by all of our lives and sharing it with the world. May the year ahead in the life of our church and congregation be a rich one, growing in diversity and questioning faith, sharing and learning, giving and making a commitment, because we have this one precious and inclusive questioning faith. Let us celebrate it. Amen.